Right, Kathy?
Yes.
Awesome.
Good evening, everyone. This is Kathy Richardson, the City Sustainability Director. Just a few housekeeping items for tonight's Zoom meeting. This meeting is being recorded and broadcast on the city's YouTube channel and cable channel 25. Please remember to mute yourself during the meeting when you are not speaking. The chat function for this public meeting is disabled. All chats will go directly to me. All board members, if you can please keep your video on, and all others keep your video off unless you are participating during the meeting. If you have any trouble, just send me a chat. A reminder that the city reserves the right to mute people or turn individual videos off to minimize distractions during the meeting. And another reminder that there is another board meeting tonight. So we ask for this meeting to wrap up by 7:15. And now I'll turn the meeting back over to you, Ben.
Thanks so much. So we're going to talk a little bit about some changes that we are thinking about in regards to the meeting. But one of them that we talked about in December was approving the agenda at the beginning of each meeting. And so that's our first item up now is for the elements that we have on. If everyone's okay with the plan for today or approving the agenda as we have it.
I'm good.
I guess that's an action item where we need to take a vote.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? So I guess I need a,
I'll move we approve the agenda.
Stan moves we approve.
I'll
Can I get a
second.
Thanks, Nancy. Second. I don't know if I'm doing something. I'm muted.
Okay, one of you kids up there is unmuting, don't unmute.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks. Okay, so Stan moves and Nancy seconds. Let's have a sign of, how does Stan say it? He does it so well. Everyone approves, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Same sign? Okay, excellent. Meetings are approved. Agenda is approved unanimously. And then we'll move quickly on to the meeting minutes that we had from December. I don't know if everyone had a chance to look at those, but does anyone have any edits or things that they thought were left out or important pieces that needed fixing or even just grammar or spelling errors?
I move we approve the minutes from the
Okay,
December
seeing
meeting.
none. Stan moves that we approve. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second. Okay, seconds. Sorry, I feel like a little announcer or something, up here. Yeah. So we've got a first and a second. So everyone that, there's Jamie.
Nope.
Vote to approve the minutes from December with the sign of aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Awesome. So we got those two out of the way with. Look at all this action we're doing. So the next thing on our agenda item is to receive the sustainability report from Kathy Richardson, and she's also going to give us an update on the single-use plastic bag ordinance.
Sure. All right, so for the staff report, just very quickly going through a few items. From the last meeting, the board had requested for me to submit a request to participate in the reimagining of SAB. So I just wanted to get back to you to let you know that that request has gone up to our city clerk's office. And there's no additional information right now as to what the schedule is going to look like for those conversations or how they're going to be formatted. But as soon as I know any other information, I'll let you know.
Awesome.
But I did submit your request. Also, another to-do was the possibility of your February meeting changing. So we did a quick doodle poll, which the majority of you have responded to, and I just wanted to report back out that only one person has indicated that they're not available on the 14th, and then February the 14th, and then one person is not available on the following Wednesday. I think there's just been, we haven't heard back from you on that poll, but it's still looking like you would have quorum on either day. There are a couple folks that did mention they could meet on the 14th, they'd rather not, so you might want to take that in consideration for your conversation. In addition, we are continuing conversations on how the city may participate with the Evergy's IRP for 2024. I know I have a meeting scheduled later this month with a staff group to discuss that further. We had talked about grants last month, and nothing's changed on that. Single-use plastic bags I'll cover in a little bit. Earth Day plans, still looking at a lot of activities around Earth Days, the 2 Saturdays that sandwich Earth Day. And then on the annual report for Ordinance 9744, I've been reaching out to some staff groups for some information and update. For example, our fleet manager and I had some back and forth to try to capture where we are with our fleet transition plan. I know that there was a presentation that was given to the Sustainability Advisory Board maybe a little bit less than a year ago, but we're a little bit off timeline that was presented at that time. And so I've been getting some information so I can include that and wrap up that report for you all. I know that there's a new subcommittee for the Sustainability Advisory Board for Ordinance 9744, so really excited to get those conversations started and seeing where staff is at and where we can move the needle on those goals. So that was super brief. Any questions on that before I move into the single-use plastic bag ordinance? Yeah. All right. So as I mentioned at the last month meeting, we do have a consultant that we're working on for our communications and campaign with the single-use plastic bags. So back then I couldn't mention it, but now everything is kind of set in stone. But we are working with Coneflower Consulting and have a lot of exciting ideas to kind of engage you with and to move forward with for the community. One of the first things that we were working on was a website for information, not only for the businesses, but for the general public. And I heard the website is down right now, but I do have a kind of the test site that we've been working off of. The reason why it's down right now is because they were uploading some additional information. So as you all can notice, this is all a work in progress. And we do absolutely want feedback from you all. Doesn't have to be right now, tonight. Can you all see a web page?
Yep.
Okay. So this is just a test site, but the web page is going to be plasticfreelawrence.org, I believe. And as you can see, this is ready for reusables. We totally got this, Lawrence. So it's awesome to have a creative team on our side helping us out. So they've been doing a lot of fun content. This is pretty straightforward. I believe by tomorrow you'll be able to just log into that plasticfreelawrence.org. So let me know if you have any edits or anything like that, or information you would like to see added. I'm just scrolling down through this homepage to show you some of the images that have been created on here. Just the explanation with that at least 40% of post-consumer recycled content that needs to be printed on there, and the papers and so forth. There is a business-specific information with a FAQ here for them. So yeah, please take time to go through it. Any of you that have edits or want to see something else, let me know. I will stop sharing here. The initial website that had that information for businesses was used when the city sent out an email to businesses in December. So it was about mid-December when an email went out. It went out to over 900 businesses in Lawrence, just letting them know of what's coming up for March 1st of 2024. It looks like from the records that we can see of who opened the email, over 500 businesses opened that email. It had some information as well as it linked to that website for additional content. And so far, we've heard from only 2 businesses that had questions. So I don't know if I should feel good about that or a little bit worried. I thought we would get a lot more questions from our Lawrence businesses. But so far, I did receive one question about a business that's already been using paper bags for the last 7 years, but theirs weren't stamped with post-consumer recycled content, although they believed it did have post-consumer recycled content. Anyway, within our conversation, they were able to find the right bag that did have that information off of Amazon, and by the time we hung up, they were already purchasing those. So they are working on being compliant now. The other inquiry we got from a business was regarding, apparently, again, this came to my attention this afternoon, on the state law for alcohol to go, that it must be in a plastic bag. So need to research that and see what that requirement is, and if that will have to be an exception for us. So that's what we have so far from the business side. How are we doing with time? You're tracking time.
I think we're still good.
I have a question. Kathy, the question that was posed to you, or statement, was that the alcohol requires something to be put in a plastic bag?
No. So, yeah, similar. They're saying that the state requires, so when they allowed alcohol to go, so I do know like some restaurants and stuff like that entered into this, you could take home like a mimosa or something, they're saying that the state law requires that whatever that alcohol to go is wrapped up in a plastic bag. So we'll look into that. I haven't had time. It came to my attention this afternoon, so I'll make sure to dig that up.
I do want to make a statement. I love that totally. We've totally got this.
Awesome. Yay.
Yep.
That's cool.
Yeah, sorry, just, I mean, I'm sure that, you know, what you're talking about, how few businesses you've heard from can reflect either a train wreck that might happen on March 1st, or people feel like they understand exactly what they need to do. Mm-hmm. Is there value in, I don't know, I feel like the big businesses, you know, the Targets and the Dillons and the Walmarts have had to do this elsewhere and are likely to get their act in a row by looking at what they've done in other places. Is there value in reaching out multiple times to kind of, some people will see this as the spam email. Maybe we need to spam them a little bit to be like, hey, March 1st is coming, you know, bigger letters as it goes.
Yeah, and I appreciate that comment. So this was the initial push of some information, and making sure businesses knew that this website was available to them for additional information. And within the website, they can also type in what their questions are. But we are getting ready to push out a postcard that is physical postcard that will go out to businesses, as well as other outreach. And we're going to get started here really soon with the community outreach as well. So businesses will be part of that in addition. So this was just kind of that initial email that went out. So maybe we'll hear more here this year when we get more engaged. It looks like Dawn and Nancy have some questions.
Yeah, Dawn, go ahead.
Oh, I was typed in the URL, so I'm looking at it, and kudos to you, Kathy, and the Coneflower Consulting. It looks like a great start. Kind of adding on what Ben said, the city tends to send out its public emails on Friday afternoons. It just seems to be a thing. And also, if that went out before the holidays, I think it would be worth sending out again sooner rather than later. And can we please include the webpage in our minutes so it's there for future reference?
Absolutely, and we are going to link from our city web site to this site as well. We were just trying to get some more content up, which I do know Coneflower is working on right now, and we'll make sure that that website, Plastic Free Lawrence, is highly advertised.
I had one more thing I forgot. I wanted to say that it's great that this went out to so many businesses, and I would encourage staffers to send it also to known environmental groups or individuals, because there's been people been working on this and looking at this for a long time, so they might also have some real good feedback that could be useful.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you. Nancy?
I just wanted to mention that the Kansas Chamber of Commerce is pushing to bans on plastics again. With this new state legislature session, we're likely to have that come up again. So I'm hoping, Kathy, that you can put forth something from Lawrence suggesting that we don't do that, and the individuals in this group can also participate in the legislative sessions, committee sessions, to stop that from happening.
Yes, thanks, Nancy, for adding that. A few more things that we're working on. So for the businesses, just some info sheets, signage, stickers, et cetera, that they can utilize for their business sites. We are also, Coneflower is working on a social media marketing plan and campaign. So you'll start seeing a lot of social media posts, stuff like that are engaging. One question I do have for you all is we're paying for 4 separate, like 30 to 60 second videos involving Lawrence residents who are out there shopping with their reusable totes. And Coneflower did ask us if we had anybody in mind that they could kind of follow and take some video. I suggested it would be really cool to have one of those videos be with our city mayor, since Lawrence is the first city in Kansas. Lawrence is the first city in Kansas that is banning the single-use plastic bags. So I think it would be cool for the mayor to be one of those people. But if any of you have suggestions or you want to volunteer yourself, think about a kind of a diverse group of folks, like maybe a student from KU, or I don't know. What do you all think?
Perhaps one of the legislators, local legislators.
Okay.
I was thinking about Representative Hasswood, since she represents the American Indian, Native American population, as well as Lawrence.
Okay.
Kathy, I'd suggest, I'm not a creative person, but I would like to see, it would be awesome if there was one with a person that's not taking their reusable bag and that panics when they get to the parking lot, or with this new thing. Like, I think a lot of people are probably going to encounter that. It would be nice to have like a 30-second video. It's like someone freaking out in the parking lot and then realizing that it's fine, that you can buy one inside, or here's the alternative options, like a 30-second walkthrough of how that's going to look.
That's a great idea. And we do have, by the way, some tips and tricks on the new website, which are fun. Kind of go along with that. Well, you can always, do your shopping and you go back to your car and unload the items there or whatnot. So, but I like that idea. Just shoot me an email or call me if you have any ideas on who could be good for that. Just something fun. Again, there's going to be a lot of social media coming out. And then the final item I did want to mention is we do plan to have like a reusable bag campaign, like kickoff event. So this is part of our work with Coneflower Consulting, and we're looking at the weekend where this ordinance goes into effect. So we're looking at Saturday, March the 2nd. We've been looking at some venues, but have picked the Lawrence Public Library as a good spot for this. And what the idea is that we would be inviting the public to come and decorate some reusable canvas bags. So the city will provide canvas bags and some art supplies. And we'll have a contest on the bag designs. So we'll engage the public not only, leading up to this event, but then with a contest of the design. There's idea of having some partners that would be at the Lawrence Public Library. For example, HAM could be there with information about their recycling facility. The Sustainability Advisory Board, we would call on you for being out there to have conversations regarding, any tips, tricks, anything about the plastic bags and reusable bags and so forth. Any other partners or stakeholders that we can invite to kind of be part of this party or kickoff event. There's kind of narrowing down on a fun name with Bag Bash being the title of the event. So any thoughts there on who could be invited in terms of tabling, folks that would want to table, that would kind of be in the same room as people that are going to be doing the art project with their canvas bags to get into that contest?
I've got a couple of suggestions.
Yep.
Have you talked to Transit about putting messaging on their buses? Can they put some messages on the buses about it? And then also, Wealth Day is on February 5th at the state capitol, which would be a really good time for the city of Lawrence to have a table with the information about that, because so many other communities are asking about this ordinance. And there's usually 200 or 300 people attending that event, and it will be all about the environment, water, environment. I think it's water, environment, air, land.
Water, energy, air, land, transportation, and health.
Right, thank you. I couldn't remember all of them, but it would be a great opportunity.
Absolutely. If anybody else has any type of engagement like that we could participate in, I will let you know that we are already confirmed. I'll be a speaker at a Kansas conference this spring. It's the Kansas Waste Reduction Conference. It used to be called Works Recycling, Composting, and Hazardous Waste, which is hosted by KDHE, Bureau of Waste, and then also the Kansas Organization of Recyclers. So if there's any other opportunities like that, we are happy to speak and share with other cities. I've had quite a few cities contact me, and we've been having some one-on-one conversations as well. So any of that would be awesome.
So let's spend about 5 more minutes on this. Dawn, go ahead.
We can email suggestions, I suppose, but I would suggest including Van Gogh Arts.
Yeah.
There's, that's an already existing creative space, and KIFA, the Kansas Interfaith Alliance, and then Sustainability Advisory Network, would be good to connect with on that.
Thank you for those suggestions, and I did fail to mention that part of this event is going to be a reusable bag swap as well. We've heard from a lot of community members that they have a lot of extra reusable bags that they don't use, and then others who can't afford reusable bags. So for this event, we will have a table, and actually Van Gogh has been brought up as a partner that could be leading up to the event, having a barrel for people to drop off reusable bags, as well as Watkins History Museum already said that they want to be a drop-off for that. And then all those bags would go to this event, and we'd be able to, anyone can come and grab these free reusable bags and/or drop off some as well. So it would be a bag swap as part of this bag bash. And the city's also purchasing reusable bags, so they're new, that will be distributed at this event as well.
Awesome. Great idea. Katie?
I love the idea of the bag swap. I think that's great. I wonder if we could get Just Food involved in some way. Maybe they could also be a recipient of some of those bags so that people could pick it up when they are picking up their food. There's an organization with the Lawrence Public Library called Kids Action Club, where there's a group of kids who are specifically doing social action projects. They would probably love to be involved in tabling the bag bash. And then thirdly, I know we can follow up with email, but I have bought bags a few times for my work to do decorating and things. And when I did some research on what was the most sustainable option, I actually found that it was not the canvas bags. So we might consider looking into the non-canvas bags options, even though it seems odd. But some of those ones that are made out of, slightly, like more cheaper feeling material are actually, in the long run, if you do the full analysis, are a more sustainable option to get for these kind of big giveaways.
Awesome. Thanks, Katie. There's so many good ideas here. We're going to go to Stan last, but if everybody can email those things to Kathy too, I know she's taking vigorous notes here, but we all have a ton of, I think, efforts to try and get ideas on there. Stan, go ahead.
Kathy, I think the event at the library sounds great. I'm wondering if you're going to do similar events at grocery stores, because I think that's going to be one of the biggest sources of bags and the biggest needs around the community.
Yeah, we've absolutely had that discussion. This is a kind of big fun event where we needed a lot of space. So the kickoff event will be like this, but I think that it's not a bad idea to go, and sometimes grocery stores let you have a small table right there where people come in and out, and we can distribute some information and even some of those city reusable bags as well. So that's a great idea and something that's been discussed. So I'm glad you brought it up.
Awesome. Thanks for that update, and I appreciate the discussion. Like I said, if the more we can provide. So I heard website, video feedback, kickoff events, thoughts of people to table. We can tell people ourselves, and then organizations and places we can go to spread the word were the things that SAB can do to help the city on this initiative. Does that sound right?
Yep.
Do you have a date for that again?
The Bag Bash will be on Saturday, March 2nd, and just a reminder for everyone that the ordinance takes effect on March 1st of 2024, so.
Okay. Awesome. Well, moving right along to our regular agenda items, the first thing that we had up was to simply have a discussion and summarize what we had talked about in reference to meeting changes in December and since then. The key one that we had from an action perspective is to move public comment up. So we decided that one of the things we wanted to do is have a discussion about including public comment about moving public comment up. What we would do is have up to 5 different people that could comment in public comment period that wasn't on items that were on the agenda, just like City Commission does at the beginning. I think that would go, is that before staff report normally?
Yeah, it would be before the staff report.
Would be before the staff report. And then if we had additional public comment, or of course public comment on items that we were talking about, we would take that during the meeting or even at the end of the meeting if there were other items that were not on the agenda. So that was one of the things. You can also see in this agenda that we've tried to put time limits on particular items because we decided we'd like this time slot. So that necessarily is going to continue to squeeze us by the 7:15 meeting that's in here. We did have a public comment from Michael Allman about potentially moving the meeting up to 5 o'clock so that we would have a little bit more time. So if we do have these time limits and we can stick to them a little bit more, that will mean, for example, that if we have a lot of suggestions, we can do those through email rather than just discussing them here. But of course, if we have, we don't want to suppress any germane discussion and stuff that when we're into it, we should stick on that. So those are kind of the items that we talked about in terms of meeting changes. I just open it up to anyone that wants to talk about those things or things that we could do to make the meeting move better. Does anybody on
I'm
the
in-
TV have thoughts?
I'm in support of the moving, this is Dawn Hawkins, board member. I keep forgetting to
Yeah, me
say
too.
that. I'm in favor of having the dedicating, it looks like up to 15 minutes, three minutes for up to 5 people to do public comment at the beginning. And then if there's others, they can, if there's time, they can go after. Just sticking to that item, I've said before that I do wish that we could find a day of the week or a time that we could not be cut short, because we can barely get much done with an hour and a half, and when we're cut short by another 15 minutes, it really handicaps us. So also we are meeting at the same time as Douglas County Commission, and I know there's meetings every night and you can't avoid everything, but I've said this several times that I would like to see it move to a different night and for us to have more sufficient time.
Thanks, Dawn. Nancy?
I worry about starting at 5 o'clock, as it does cut into when you work, when most people work, get off at 5, because that's when most meetings, for me, and so it would not always be easy to get started at 5. I think 5:30 is a more reasonable time to start.
Okay. Any other thoughts about public comment or meeting changes? One other thing that Kay, you had brought up that I think I wanted to make sure that I echoed is when we have presentations from different groups, that we make sure that we know that ahead of time, we can provide them with questions, and we have set amounts of times, just like we're trying to put on ourselves here for those presentations.
Right, I think it's a lot more effective when we have a reason, we know the people, what they're going to be talking about, and give them some questions to help guide their presentation with a time limit.
Right. Excellent.
I think the time limits are really good, and I think they're going to be effective.
Yeah. Great. I'll try to be the timekeeper, but I'm not going to be a harsh one. Like I said, I mean, if we're having a brilliant discussion about how to do something or starting a new initiative or something, we should absolutely keep doing that and move things, but hopefully it will help us to not spin wheels. Any other thoughts that people have? Any other ideas that we didn't capture in how we can make these meetings more effective and efficient? It might be more homework. It might be more stuff that we have to read beforehand and thinking about it and processing it and coming kind of with, what exactly we want to say rather than kind of showing up and spinning it, which I am certainly guilty of.
So do we need to have a motion?
We do. I think, do we ask for public comment after we do the motion? Do I have that order right?
Before you take a vote, you want to ask for public comment.
Okay, thanks. So yeah, do we have any, I'm not sure if we have any public comment on how we're talking about changing our meetings, including the public comment period. Awesome. So hearing none, I would accept any motions for approval of these meeting changes as we outlined.
So I'll make a motion that we have some changes to our meeting, which includes putting the time limit on each item that we have on our agenda, includes moving our public comment up to the front, allowing 5 individuals to speak for 3 minutes, a limit of 3 minutes, if there are 5 people there and here, and that would be on items that would not be already appearing on our agenda. And then also having our start and end times continue as we are, so 5:30 to 7:15, unless there is no meeting behind us.
Okay.
Did I miss anything? I may have missed something.
I think that's all right now.
And same day of the week.
What was that? On the same day?
Same day of the week
Yeah.
right now. It just,
So is there a second? I guess we need a second.
I'll second.
Kay moves that. And Nancy
Nancy
seconds. Everyone in favor of those changes, please state aye.
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 Anyone opposed, say same sign. Great. So we've got those on the books now, and that didn't take 20 minutes. That's awesome. Thank you all. So again, just that's a hierarchy, and hopefully that will invite more public comment as well. People don't feel shoved at the very end of the meeting if they have something that they want us to tackle or to think about. So the next agenda item is just to discuss feedback that we've already submitted from the subcommittee as well as individuals to the Douglas County Climate Action and Adaptation Plan. I think it got another A now in it, right? The adaptation part. And Nancy, I don't know if you wanted to say anything. I know we have Jamie and Kim here maybe as flies on the wall, but also this isn't an opportunity for us to have a big discussion with them. It's simply to kind of summarize what SAB has done so far in terms of the feedback we've given them and how we might pull together a group feedback that we haven't given them already, potentially even in a letter form or something like that that would help to express things that we see that seem to be working really well and things that might be improved. Does that sound right? Kathy, did you want to maybe give a little summary of what we've done so far?
Yeah, and just to add a little bit, yeah, Kim and Jamie are on this meeting tonight. If there are any questions for them, otherwise they've joined to listen to some of that feedback. So one of the items that as on the staff perspective that's kind of been missing is this board having that conversation about the climate action and adaptation plan as a whole. But we want you to recognize that there's been a lot of activity with feedback and engagement through Nancy as the rep, the SAB rep on the steering committee of the Douglas County Climate Action and Adaptation Plan, as well as the subcommittee of the SAB that Nancy leads with climate action. So there's been a lot that's been submitted that way. A few of you have reached out with your individual comments and feedback as well. The most important thing tonight, I think not only for all of you to have this conversation as a board, would be, is there anything that's missing? Like, have one of you not been able to maybe submit your feedback that you're not seeing yet? Because that's important. I mean, we don't want to get to the point where our commissions are taking action on this plan and the board might feel like there's still something that's pending for you. So is there anything pending? And then thinking about next steps, you know, our commission is advised by you on these topics, and climate action is absolutely one of those. So they're going to be looking at you for what your recommendation is on this. So just throwing a few things out there. I did share a few of those written feedback statements that were submitted to Jamie, but there's been a lot more meetings and discussion as well. So I want to recognize that there's a lot more than what you received. So, yeah.
Thanks. Okay.
I had not been able to, or not commented in writing about it, but I did go to one of the community meetings, and the latest draft, I was sadly disappointed to see that the renewable energy projects were not listed in the climate and adaptation plan for Douglas County. And you know, there were quite a few energy-related items there, but support for renewable energy projects was not one of them. And I really feel like that's something that is important to our community. It's important to our ordinance to be able to achieve the goals that we are wanting. And that, to me, is a big gap. And I noticed that several people online had also commented about that. I'm not the only one that had commented from the community about that.
Okay, so
If
hopefully
I
getting
need
more
to-
about renewable.
Yeah, energy.
You're thinking like utility scale.
In utility scale and wind energy, whatever we need to do, we've got to get away from fossil fuels.
Okay. Yeah, I could actually probably summarize too, outside of this, of the comments. I was able to meet with Jamie and outline some of the comments I had as well, but I haven't shared those with the rest of the SAB.
Right.
And my stuff was focused on vegetation and land use, I think, are key pieces that are tricky to talk about. And one of the things that I brought up that's come up repeatedly, for example, with the utility scale solar north of town, is that for people in the county, it's a tricky prospect for people in the city to continually be asking to do things out there that are going to provide the energy for us. And so I think it's really imperative on the city to be doing everything that they can towards, for example, renewable energy production within the city limits when we're asking for large-scale changes in land use or those kind of things to provide energy largely that we'll use.
And to your point, like solar on all of the city buildings or things like that, so that it's showing that we have a good faith
Yep.
effort.
Nancy.
One of the things that our subcommittee put forth repeatedly was that we were hoping that we wouldn't just have suggestion types of statements, but rather action items like not to study or explore. And many of those things were changed, but in the latest draft, they still are plentiful in the plan. And we were hoping that those would be removed and have just more straightforward, actionable statements.
Okay. Maybe there's specific areas, since you were on the committee, you know some of those places that it can be improved. Any other thoughts? Mohsen, I know you had given a lot of feedback as well.
Yeah, I think generally my main concern would be more clarification on how we've developed scenarios. Like the business as usual scenario is, I guess, too optimistic, projecting that of the 38% reduction of GHGs, 26% of it would be business as usual. And I'm not sure that's going to happen, and it leaves us with 12.8% of reductions by our actions, which I would ask, is it worth all this effort and community engagement just to reduce GHG emissions for 13%? And as Nancy mentioned, we need actions, and those actions need to be quantified, and we need to know how the magnitude of each action's contributions to those reductions. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to be accountable to those actions. If, like, invest in renewable energy, how much investment, how much it's going to help, and how much we expect of that to reduce emissions. Those are the things that I think are needed to be added and more clarified in the plan. And some other scenarios, if this business as usual didn't work, what's our alternative? And also cost benefit analysis of different scenarios would be helpful. Like these 5 different scenarios. If this didn't work, we have this one, it's gonna cost this amount. So that's why we're gonna work on that. And one other thing I've always thought about, it's excellent community engagement has been done here, but to me, it sounds like for these highly technical plans, it shouldn't be like we ask the community, what do you want to see in the plan? Because it's kind of a technical aspect. We need to provide the community with options and strategies and explain how much this strategy is going to contribute, and then have the community with all that information pick 1 or 2 or 3 of those strategies, not to ask the community for strategies. I guess that's my general thoughts.
Thanks, Mohsen. I guess I'm supposed to say always, this has been SAB Chair. Yeah, Katie, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, Catherine Morse, subcommittee member. I just want to second what Mosen said. I read through his comments and I thought they were very detailed and very good and very helpful. I think that there was a lot of things that were just not maybe framed in the most, intelligible way. And even just some of his comments about improving the graphs and coming up with specific scenarios, I think would be so helpful to have in this document. So thank you, Mosen.
Thanks. Other thoughts? This has been SAB Chair. Since Jamie and Kim are on here, I'd just like to ask about capacity. I mean, we've argued for a while that Kathy needs a data analyst, for example, would super help. I thought that having the greenhouse gas inventory at the beginning is now super compelling to me. I love that aspect, but some of the things that we're talking about, whether it's cost-benefit analyses or different scenarios that we could come up with, is that really something that you all have the capacity to do, or is that something, I know the county doesn't have its own sustainability advisory board, but to the degree that, you're two people, or really, Jamie, one person that's been trying to do a lot of this stuff, I know it's collaborative.
Kim or Jamie, would you like to speak on that?
Sure, I can try to address that. Then this is Jamie Hoffling, Douglas County Sustainability, and Kim might chime in here as well. To answer the question about capacity, we are writing a plan that's countywide, and we're a county office. So our capacity would be, conducting greenhouse gas inventories, which we've written into the plan to start with the benchmark of 2021 and then continue those thereafter to continue to track our performance. And in terms of whether or not the city hires an analyst to work with Kathy, that would be something that the city would need to, that would be at the city level. That would be the city's implementation of the strategies and the goals in the plan.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, this has been SAB Chair. I wasn't suggesting that we get an analyst for Kathy and she could help with those. Just simply that, she can often do some of the, more complex data analytics and things that we would need because she's stretched so thin. I'm asking, I guess, if the same is true for you guys in terms of your ability to pull a lot of numbers together and put technical plans, different scenarios together. Is that something that we can assist with, or?
Something you can assist with. Kim, can I pull you in to help answer this question?
Yes. So Kim Kreiner Ritchie, Sustainability Manager. Ben, you're asking if we have the capacity to put different scenarios within the plan?
Yeah, I guess some of those, I thought effective comments are that we would bring to the public is the greenhouse gas inventory shows where we're at, but then, having different scenarios of here's what we could specifically do in the county and here's how much it would move the needle, and have those different kinds of technical plans, and that's what we present to the public. And they say, I'm up for Plan 3, which is the most aggressive, and Lawrence may be up for that, and Eudora might not be. They might want Plan 1 or something like that. Is that a thing, or not really?
I think that's something we can potentially take into consideration if you wanted different modeled scenarios of the possibility of different reduction scenarios. But like an actual project, like a project scope for, we are going to implement this with this amount of funding and it is going to reduce the greenhouse gas impact this much. I think we're getting into implementation territory. So this plan is really intended to be like a collection of 14 goals that the whole county can get behind. And then each municipality, each community may decide which implementation, partnered or separate, is ready for them to seize, and that they have the energy and the mobility and the capacity to go after. And how they do that, again, it may be a whole countywide partnered effort, or it may be the city of Lawrence saying, hey, we're going to take this and run with it because we've already got all this energy and ordinance and staff partnerships to go for it. And so getting then into more of the nitty gritty of what the GHG impact of a particular implementable project, that may take on a life of its own. But this is meant to be, again, a broad, high-level collection of 14 goals that we can all agree is where we want to take our community. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question, Ben?
Yeah, I think it does to me. The difference, part of the difference I guess we're talking about is like, in Lawrence, we have 9744, and you were talking about fleet transitions, right, Kathy? Is there equal buy-in on specific plans like that? Like when Douglas County is talking about buying new F-150s for the sheriff's office, right? Like, is this plan, the Douglas County Climate Action and Adaptation Plan, going to result in those specific changes? Like, for example, they buy F-150 Lightnings, or they start thinking about hybrids and renewables in those kinds of efforts, or those are kind of the tangibles of the implementation, but they come out of having an actual ordinance that's very specific for goals. So is this plan also, without those specifics for goals, how does it actually play out across a pretty heterogeneous county? I guess is what I would ask.
Well,
sorry if that's not clear.
And I mean, it might be an interesting exercise for this group to look, what are your priorities now and how do they relate to the goals and strategies in there? Can you lean on them and say, hey, if the city of Lawrence approves this, then this is just one more validation that we need to move in this direction. And you guys, as the experts within Lawrence, take it to the next level of what that looks like for the city to implement. And different cities may, do that different ways or pick off different pieces of it. But if you have a priority that you're looking at this plan and you're like, I can't find it, then we'd love to have that conversation. How can we make this plan help you?
That makes sense. Dawn.
I would like to see more citations in here and linkable citations. For example, I think that, the actual Douglas County, was it 2022 greenhouse gas inventory should either be included here with more detail. Even, I've seen in other action plans where they actually identify, I have a hard time believing that industry is only 9% of the problem, but, and I don't know I haven't looked at the definitions to see what's the difference between industry and commercial emissions, but I think that the inventory should either be included or linked or both. And if it's a plan, I feel like there should be more of a plan for the implementation and ongoing monitoring, something that states, at a minimum, this is what we're monitoring, this is how we do it, or not necessarily the specifics, but, what does it mean? Where's that testing coming from? I think that this is, it's looking pretty nice, and it does do a good job of making the case for the need for a climate action plan. And I'm sorry that I haven't taken the time to provide more specific details, but I would like to see more implementation and planning type stuff. I would just, I'm so sorry, reference the Kansas City Metro Climate Plan. I think I'm sure you're working with those people or have looked at that, but they have a little bit more of the kind of things I'm describing.
Yes, thank you, Dawn. And we are writing an implementation chapter. We wanted to first take the strategies that we had written. All of the strategies that are in our draft were presented to the public from the month of through November and December, and open for feedback at that time, so people could take a look at all the strategies first. And then also, what Mosin said earlier, we actually did do exactly that. Took the strategies to them through open houses and by survey, and asked what people would like us to prioritize in there and got good feedback on that. So we do have that from the public. And we didn't actually ask the public to give us strategies. The strategies came from internal work that we did in our office. The outreach that we did was to find out more generally how people were being affected by climate change. Yes, we are writing an implementation chapter, very important step, and are going to be working with the City of Lawrence on that as well, with Kathy.
Thanks. I appreciate you guys coming and giving us another opportunity to look for things that that we think might be important. And I think that they'd be happy to continue to talk about it if we wanted to. Does anyone else have any comments before we move along?
I do.
Yeah, Kathy.
So this has been great sharing of feedback for sure. And I just wanted to highlight, again, we want to make the best plan that we can have that will move the needle for us on a lot of different items related to sustainability and climate action. But one thing I wanted to make sure everybody understood is this plan is nearing the final draft. So I just don't want anybody to be surprised of that timeline. So I don't know exactly when this will go to the city commission or the county commission, but in my understanding from meetings with Kim and Jamie is that it would likely be here this, kind of February or March timeframe. So I do know that the feedback that's been received so far, they're working into this new revised plan, and then it will go to our local governments for kind of that review and final approval.
Cool. That's fantastic. I know you guys have worked really hard on it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
With that timeline, if the Sustainability Advisory Board would like to make some sort of a statement or a recommendation or anything like that, that would go to our city commission. If you're thinking about that, just be mindful that you meet monthly. The next meeting might be a good time to maybe be closer to what it is you want to say, if you want to say something. Yeah, it looks like Nancy has a question.
Maybe what we could do is have our subcommittee draft something to present at the next meeting for consideration and modification. Does that sound good?
That sounds great. Thank you, Nancy.
Okay.
And do we have a timeline for when that revised plan with the input integrated into it might be available at all?
I don't know the exact timeline. I don't know if Kim or Jamie could share where we're at with this next draft.
Yeah, we are working on incorporating the feedback right now and writing the implementation chapter. We do want to take it in front of the city commissioners before we finalize the next draft. That's the current plan right now. So March is what we're looking at for presenting it to county commissioners for adoption. So that would need to be the final, or not the final, but pretty darn close to the final.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to talk a little bit more about it.
Yep. Thanks, and thanks, Nancy, for your group's work on that. All right, so let's move on to our KPIs. Kathy, did you have any lead-in for that?
Sure. So one of the items that I'd been discussing with the chair and vice chair is how we can get the Sustainability Advisory Board a little bit more engaged with our KPIs in our city strategic plan. And in specific, we're talking about the environmental sustainability KPIs. So we've talked about them before. I think there's been a couple presentations to this board. It's been a while, so it'd always be good to have a refresher on those. But really, it would be the possibility of scheduling one KPI per meeting, if the agenda allows for that time, where we could spend, 15 to 20 minutes brainstorming one of the KPIs. And the way that the Sustainability Advisory Board would be brainstorming these are in respect to the possibility that we're working on some tweaks to some of the KPIs. Maybe we spend some time talking about the strategies behind that KPI and how we can move the needle. I think it's been brought up before, but we haven't yet kind of done the work on what might be missing. So I have heard a lot of comments of what seems to be missing from a KPI with environmental sustainability. So I would like to be able to tap into your expertise so we can have those conversations around these KPIs. That would be super helpful for me. Obviously, I have a lot of meetings with, a staff team that makes up the environmental sustainability group. I do also have a lot of meetings with the outcome champions that share these KPIs with us. So there's a lot going on right now, but I also want to reach out to you all to bring you in on some of that brainstorming and how we can make it better. I will let you know that it's not up to you or me to change any of these KPIs. It really would go to the City Commission for an official request to update any of these. But certainly, we're currently kind of behind the scenes working on how we can make some better, or if there's one that's missing. Usually KPIs and the discussion of strategic plan, because it is attached to that budget discussion. These next few months are really important for some of those because the city's going to ramp up to start talking about the budget for 2024. So last year around this time, there were a couple groups that proposed some edits to KPIs, and those were approved by the City Commission. So again, I don't know how you all feel about it, but for me, it would be super helpful if this group could really kind of allot some time to kind of break one of those KPIs down and talk about it with a little bit more detail.
Okay.
So I know that Kathy and I have talked, and others in our SAB meetings, that we were disappointed that the KPIs didn't include a solid waste reduction goal. Do you feel like that we would have to wait to go through all of those KPIs before we acknowledge that that is a goal that is sadly lacking? It seems like to me, I would like to move that up to the front rather than go through all the existing KPIs, because I know that many of us have talked about, we would like to see a solid waste reduction goal as incorporated into the sustainability portion of the KPIs as a strategy for, the strategic plan.
I appreciate that idea and thought. I would say everything is on the table to ask about. So our city manager obviously meets with our mayor and vice mayor to set agendas and stuff like that. And I think that if we wanted to move on with a KPI, one that's not on there that we wanted to add, I would definitely have that conversation with the city manager and kind of show some of that background and information about why it's needed, and kind of get some guidance from him, and then he could talk also to the mayor about the possibility of putting that up for city commission meeting. So everything, any of those ideas, sure, we can ask about them. I do know that in the past, it's been said that it's good to group them together for just one discussion with the commission and a vote that they can take. A little bit more efficient that way than if we sprinkle their meetings with many of these. But I think that sometimes there might be just one that we identify that can be separate from a group or so forth. But we can always ask.
The reason I ask that is one of the biggest reasons that we had passed and recommended the plastic bag ordinance, because that would reduce plastics in landfill. And to me, that is important enough that the commissioners did approve that ordinance. To me, that should be a KPI that goes along with a lot of other things like composting, like food waste, like a lot of different things that would reduce the amount of waste going to the landfill.
Awesome, thanks. Yeah, I've put a note on here to just ask about, can we pull one out and maybe put it out there?
I don't have any problem with reviewing all the other ones, but I feel like that one's a big gap, and that was a gap that was identified when they first came out.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you that maybe weren't on the, or didn't hear the City Commission discussion on solid waste rates towards the end of last year, that agenda also included information of how solid waste is looking forward this year to work with a consultant for a solid waste master plan. So we're going to be talking about all things that reduce materials from going to the landfill and, the operations and in general, all of that. So great timing. This is all part of our solid waste management plan that goes to KDHE as well. We're part of the 2-county regional solid waste management plan committee. So, but Lawrence is really stepping up to do some work on the solid waste side.
Other thoughts on even zooming out a little bit from that on our role and our potential to help find new KPIs, but also refine the KPIs that are there? Does everybody think that's a valuable, certainly sounds like the city could use that of us. Dawn, I saw you unmuted. Did you want to?
Dawn Hawkins, board member. Yeah, I think that this is definitely a grand idea to help get us more engaged with the actual city work, so I'm all for it. Trying to figure out which ones to, like, maybe we could, with Kathy's help, prioritize which ones to discuss at which meeting. And maybe have two scheduled in case we're able to, we get through one and we're able to move on to another. And then also, we're not here yet, but in an overarching sort of view of this, not getting down to the nitty gritty, I just really want to see more protection of air and water. I see when I do a search on water, it's under strategies. So that's just a general comment.
Thank you. Yeah, I think, does anybody else have any, I would ask that as homework, go on and look at all those KPIs. If we're thinking about other things we want the city to prioritize, what is the measurable thing that would be happening, right? That's what's so important about these indicators, is it has to be something measured. And Dawn, in reference to what you're talking about with, do we have one or two? There's several of them on there that I think we could group together. Like, there's ones that are definitely related to each other, like number of trails and the way that food gets to people via bikes and things like that, or something like that. There's ones that are related that don't necessarily need a whole meeting, would be my opinion.
I do want to add, just from the staff perspective, when this discussion occurred, I did ask Ben and Kay if the board would kind of allow for me to facilitate the discussion of the KPI. So again, this is really staff asking for help and brainstorming with you. Along the same lines, I will tell you that internally, as we're working through KPIs, there are some that are currently on hold. The city can't move the needle on over 100 KPIs at the same time. So we have conversations about prioritization between departments, the champions of commitments and champions of the outcome groups on a daily basis, where maybe one group is ready to move forward with one or the other. But if you all would allow for me to kind of bring up the KPI that I know our city staff is ready to address, that I need your help, that would be most helpful, instead of digging through one that is currently, on hold or won't be discussed until next year or something. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that's awesome. That works. That sounds great to me. Do you have one off the top of your head for next month, or can you think about it and get it to us so we can schedule a specific, is there a KPI that's bubbling at the top of your brain that we need help?
The hope is that any homework or any information about the KPI would be provided to you at least 1 week before your meeting, so you're well prepared. There's some background information on some of these and kind of where we're at. Some don't have as much activity.
Okay.
But I will tell you that the Energy Code KPI is one that I would love to hear your feedback and just kind of pick your brain on.
Cool.
And let you know some of the stuff we're thinking about and if we're going the right direction or not. So,
Yeah,
Awesome.
I think we should follow Kathy's lead on
Oh, yeah.
what she thinks is priorities right now, rather than us just
Yeah.
arbitrarily deciding what we think are priorities.
I absolutely agree. So if that's the priority, or you can think of which one you want, and we can have a set time next meeting to discuss that. Nancy?
I just think it would be really useful if we have more than a week to think about it
Yep.
and get input on it. If as much time as you can provide us, I think would be very helpful.
absolutely. Thanks for saying that. Mohsen?
I wanted to say I think it would be helpful to get KPIs in categories that are related. That way we can think if any of them could be combined, or if anything is missing, rather than get one, and you know what I mean.
The way we currently group our KPIs, so if you looked at a cross-section of environmental sustainability KPIs, is they're grouped into the outcome that they fall into. So again, the strategic plan defines outcome as the work that we're in the business to do, and a defined commitment like environmental sustainability as how we do that work. So it's currently in buckets of these 5 outcomes, and actually there are no KPIs for one of the buckets, which is safe and secure. So that might be a conversation we have as well. But I do appreciate if you allow me to take lead on what is brought forth, and with advance notice, as Nancy mentioned, as much advance notice as possible. That would be the most productive use of our time talking about KPIs.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Any other thoughts? All right, so can also go down as a future agenda item that we'll have. Thanks. Okay, moving on, we're gonna do a round robin on updates from the boards and committees with SAB representation. Nancy, did you have anything from the Climate Action Plan?
I don't think we have anything further than what we already discussed.
Okay, great. For the noxious weed ordinance, it sounds like there might be a meeting in February or March, by City Commission to look at that. If anybody hasn't seen, I suggest you go and look at Johnson County has recently implemented ordinance changes that are along the same lines of what we've recommended. And Kathy and I are in some discussions with Johnson County about how they are doing it, how they passed it, but also how they're trying to implement it, and even potentially how they're funding it. So those are important aspects, and that's kind of the whole ordinance update on that one. Food Policy Council has had some really great meetings. A lot of it is thinking about equity in farming, and about food trucks, and about trying to support businesses here. I think there's been a lot of discussion and movement, especially with utility scale solar discussions that went on at Food Policy Council meetings, to think about farmers and things like that. And a lot of the focus has been for a while on the food system, just like the food plan, the county food plan outlines, but also trying to think more about how the Food Policy Council can support new farmers and things. There's a lot of initiatives for that within the federal and state government. So that's kind of the update from there. Kay, did you have anything on the land development code?
Well, I had provided information at our last meeting that I had given to for that section that included the noxious weeds and those sorts of things, even though they didn't talk about that part. And I've got to go back in and they do have a survey out. I encourage everybody, and Kathy had provided the link to the survey. I don't know if they've closed that survey yet, but it's real important. If you haven't done that survey, it's short, it's kind of a weird survey, but I think it's important to show that we looked at it. And but there'll be more coming up in the next month or so, and they haven't scheduled our next meeting that I know of yet, but we will be talking about the weed ordinance in some context in that situation because of sustainability in the natural landscaping of the built environment. So that's about it on that. What's listed as sustainability or SAB ordinance 9744 subcommittee, I would like to see the name change to actually the renewable energy goals, which is on that actual ordinance, Article 11, which is ordinance number 9744, which to me won't make a lot of sense to other people if they don't already know that it's the renewable energy goals. So I'd like to see our subcommittee title change to renewable energy goals. I don't think we have to have a vote or anything like that, but it just makes, we know it's 9744, but a lot of other people probably do not. And we will have our first meeting on January 22nd at 6 o'clock, and if anyone from the general public wants to join our subcommittee, they can. We have 3 or 4 people that are committed to attend our meetings from our SAB members, but otherwise, we definitely want others to attend as well, so to get their information. And we're going to meet January 22nd, and I believe is it February 26th, Kathy, is the next, it's the February meeting, and then we would go to the 3rd Monday of the month thereafter. So that gives a little bit of information. And to follow on with what was discussed about the Douglas County Climate Action and Adaptation Plan, with our renewable energy goals, we'll be looking at all of those things that can be turned into actions for this part of the energy, renewable energy goals. So the whole premise of this subcommittee is to provide a framework for a plan with strategies, policies, and actions to achieve the goals identified in that ordinance. So I did have a map kind of what the goals for the subcommittee would be, and that's what we will start working on right away.
Awesome.
So that's it.
That's a great update. Thanks. Anybody have any other questions about the subcommittees? I think we've talked about as well, and we don't want to get in front of the horse in terms of the reimagining, but to the degree these subcommittees can work to provide input to the city on specific implementation or specific items as the brain trust that they want us to be or things like that, I think that would best serve the city.
And thinking how it all ties into the strategic plan.
Yeah, that needs to be on the front foot, right? Okay, if we have no other thoughts on the subcommittees, the last item up before general public comment would be to discuss future agenda items, a few of which we've already talked about. Does anybody have any things they desperately want to see on future agenda items? We will continue, I didn't outline this in the meeting changes, but we'll continue to solicit from the entire SAB through email. Probably would need input on things we want on the agenda at least 2 weeks before the next meeting so that we can, the chair and Kathy and the vice chair can discuss them when we have our meeting, and then the agenda has to be set. Yeah, there's a little bit of timeline, but if anybody has any thoughts now about future agenda items, the 2 things I heard tonight were the KPI thing and the element that Nancy outlined. Sorry, I'm blanking on it. I wrote it down, Nancy.
The comments.
Comments.
Comments for Douglas
Yes,
County.
sorry, comments for the CAAP your subcommittee would be able to bring those together.
You mentioned the possibility, some invitations.
Thanks. I had thought of that earlier, then I forgot it. I thought the tradition that Stan started with inviting members of the city commission to our meetings was super helpful, and particularly when we have new members on city commission, like Mike Devers, who has had a role in Sustainability Advisory Board. I thought it'd be a great idea to invite him to one of our meetings as well and get his input on both the reimagining, but also kind of the initiatives that we're trying to help the city with. So we would similarly try and outline, we're not going to be like, you can only talk for 10 minutes, Mike, or something like that, but we would have a period of our meeting where it would just be our ability to talk with city commission members.
This is Dawn Hawkins, board member. I like the idea of having inviting city commissioners to our meetings and having discussions, but I feel like given our time constraints that we don't really have time for that right now unless we're specifically trying to, address an issue. If we had more time, I think it would be great, but I just feel like we don't have time.
Yeah, I mean, definitely we want to be aware of what we have on our plate and not, if we invite them, maybe not have a full plate of other stuff as well. Sorry, I keep forgetting to say this has been like SAB chair or whatever, but other thoughts on that?
This is Kate Johnson. I would like to see us bring in the new commissioner because the other commissioners are generally familiar with what we've been doing. And so I think the sooner the better. It wouldn't necessarily need to be next month, but I would say within the next 1 or 2 months because our future is still in the hands of the commissioners right now.
I would agree.
Yeah, Kay makes very good points.
Okay. Kathy, would you be able to reach out to, or is that something I would do? Sorry, I don't know.
Yeah, I do.
I don't know how Stan did it before.
Yeah, I'm the one that reaches out to the mayor, vice mayor, or commissioner that you would want to invite.
Okay.
I will tell you 2 months in advance is good
Okay.
because their schedule does fill up. So if you are looking to schedule someone for the March meeting, let me know who, and I'll start that communication.
I think that'd be great. I think we should try and get, we didn't.
Commissioner Devers.
Commissioner Devers, I'd love to have Commissioner Sellers here as well.
No S at the end.
What's that?
No S at the end of his name.
Commissioner Dever.
Yep.
Thank you.
Never, like
We
never.
should definitely get that right before he comes. Okay, yeah. Would you be able to reach out to him and see if he'd be able to come to the March meeting?
Absolutely.
Thanks.
And then the only other item for future agenda items, just thinking about our list, is when is the February one?
Yeah, are you asking me because I'm the only one that didn't reply to the poll?
Well,
Or because I'm the chair?
I let you
Or all
know
of
what
the
the
above?
information is so far. There's only one member that's indicated for each one of the meetings, a different member for each one. There are a couple that said they prefer not being on the 14th, but they could still attend.
Yeah.
So there's more on the following Wednesday.
So we're going to lose one person one way or the other for the 14th or the 21st.
May lose others if it's on the 14th.
I'd be happy. I would propose that we move it to the 21st. I mean, I could probably make it, but I would probably get in a little bit of trouble. Yeah. Is everybody else okay with moving it to the 21st, even perhaps for the person that's not able to make it? I don't know if Amanda has given you any feedback as well, since she couldn't be here.
Yeah, I voted on that one as a possibility, so I may or may not be available on the
For the
21st,
21st.
but I'll try.
Okay, thanks. All right, so let's put that then as the hopeful is that we can move it to the 21st.
Okay.
Any other thoughts on future agenda items, and particularly things, action items or things we can do?
Do we need to vote on changing the date? Is that something that we need to actually take a vote on, or can we just announce it? That's our date.
Actually, do think it's helpful because it's your standard meeting. You're not scheduling a special meeting. You're just rescheduling your current standard meeting. So for a standard meeting, I think it'd be good to have a vote.
A vote,
For
okay.
a special meeting, it's up to the chair to call it, but
Okay.
So the 21st is what,
Yes.
if somebody wants
so
that.
I could make a motion that we move our regular meeting date to February 21st instead of the current
February 14th.
April 4th, yeah, February 14th.
I'll second that.
Kay moves, Stan seconds. Everybody in favor of moving our standard meeting to the 21st of February, respond with aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, great. So we will move it to the 21st. Thank you guys too for bearing with me with growing pains of not knowing Robert's rules and procedures and stuff, and I appreciate it.
I wouldn't worry about
You're doing well.
it. You're doing fine.
Look, we're ending on our regular
Look at this,
time.
almost there. So I don't know if we have anybody, I didn't see anybody out in the public, but I would, we have Melinda Ball that's here. I don't know if we have any public comments on non-agenda items or just general public comments, but we'd definitely be happy to answer them. Dawn?
So I haven't had enough time to really research this, but just something I want to make other board members aware of. I just recently learned that the phosphorus plant in North Lawrence that I thought was done in 2007 is actually an active plant that apparently makes white phosphorus, and we all know where that goes. The company is called ICL, officially ICL Performance Products. I'm not going to get political here or anything, but just looking at the EPA's ECHO site where you can look up emissions and such, they definitely had significant Category 1 non-compliance, and they have a trending upward pollution numbers. This I'm not a scientist, but it's something that I think we should all just keep on our radar, and possibly if I have more information, I might request it be added to a future agenda. If there's anything, actionable or, in terms of monitoring or what, but mostly I just want to make everyone aware of it.
Thank you, Dawn.
And who was that again?
ICL.
ICL.
See.
ICL. They're north of the track.
I guess when you're coming in on 70, it's the thing on the left
They
before.
make phosphoric acid. I don't know that they make white phosphorus.
I don't know. I don't know much about it. I'd have to do some research. It sounds like something that's worth a look from people. Thank you. Any other thoughts? Any other, or any public comment? I don't know if Melinda's on here. Yeah, go ahead, Melinda, please.
Hi. Let me get my video on. Okay. Hello. I wasn't planning on speaking, but first I just wanted just to thank you all. This is my first meeting of yours that I've joined. I'm kind of slowly getting more involved as a citizen. So I think I actually had more of a question, but I'm going to probably just rewatch the recording, and I think it'll answer my question. There is a concern that I'm trying to bring up in the right avenue. I know the commissioners will definitely be the next stop that I go, but just regarding the Climate Action Adaptability Plan and the Land Development Code, the update for the Land Development Code. I'm having a pretty strong concern about development, specifically fill and build in floodplains. And this kind of comes up from a proposed development coming to the city soon. And that's just something that I don't know. I don't know if this is really the place to bring this up, but this is something that I'm kind of voicing out there, and we'll take other avenues as needed just to get that on people's minds. I've done quite a bit of research at this point on just the issue of that, and it really does tie into climate change and how we have already, but will continue to experience stronger and stronger rains in single day instances, and how that obviously will increase flooding, and that actually flooding is, I believe, the considered the worst as far as Douglas County's emergency area. It's considered like the worst possible thing, clearly. So that just, it's just something that I'm having a really strong drive to bring that to anybody that will listen, as far as city places go. But thank you.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that, Melinda. I don't know if others have thoughts. I mean, Kay, has that come up at all in some of the land development code discussions?
It has, because as new developments come up, there are issues associated with flooding. So that's one of the reasons that you want good landscaping and good flood control ordinances and things in place to prevent that, or at least to account for that. So it definitely is important, and you should also be involved in the land development code update.
Have you been able to go to any of those meetings, Melinda, on the public?
I went to I guess it was a meeting. It was late last year. I went to the train depot up in North Lawrence, and they had like the boards, and you put your little Post-its and you made the color codes. So I went to that, and I made a jot. This is one thing I was going to look at the recording again, but there's I believe a subcommittee that's coming up on the 22nd, I think is what I heard, for land development. I think that's that's right. Or
that's the renewable energy one.
Okay. So anyhow, I'm doing my best, and I'm still looped in as far as looking for any other meetings or public comment opportunities for land development. And of course, I'm going to the city commission meetings too.
And Kathy can give you the website, the actual website for the land development code update.
Okay.
Committee information, including the current information that's been provided so far, and you can actually go in and make suggested changes or improvements to the drafts that have been identified so far.
Okay.
Melinda, can you, via chat, send me your email? It just comes to me. It won't be a public contact. Okay.
I can do that. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
I really appreciate this.
Melinda, if this is Dawn Hawkins, board member, I might be misinterpreting, but if you're talking about the new Boston Crossing development, then you would want to pay attention to planning commission meetings. Yes. On January 16th, there's the comprehensive plan amendment will go before the planning commission, and then on the 24th, there's a rezoning question that goes before the planning commission, and then from the planning commission stage, then it goes to the county and then to the city. Sandy Day is a city planner who's you can reach, email or call, and she's very helpful in finding the information that you're looking for.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I actually linked up with Mike Almond at when the new Boston Crossing was initially brought up to Douglas County Planning in November. I attended that meeting. I spoke, and yes, and I'll be at the 16th meeting and the next one after. Yeah. So Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for coming and commenting. We appreciate it. Something to be on our radar for sure. When I think of infill development, which is prioritized a lot, there's a lot of aspects of that.
Yeah, well, and I'm sorry I'm going over my time, I think, but the thing I'm really looking at is fill and build. So that's kind of it's a loose term. I don't think it's technical in any capacity, but it's essentially what is required to build in floodplain. So they fill floodplain and build on top of that. I mean, that's kind of basically, but as the research I found, and there are actually areas, I think it was Charleston was one town I found that has banned that practice of fill and build because it worsens flooding in areas that wouldn't flood prior. So, and just, yeah, goes from there, so.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Well, I think we're at time now, or we can adjourn. If anybody didn't have thoughts about future agenda items now, but thinks of them mere minutes after we finish or in the next week or so, please email Kathy directly with those items so that we can get them for our meeting on the 21st. And I would just say, if you're here, be careful getting home, and if you're not, stay warm out there, okay? Thank you, guys. We'll see you next month. Bye. We decided we don't have to vote.
Right. No, we just leave.
We just leave.
And we finish.